Oh, there we go.
Boom. Cool. So, Juicy Ninja Chuck and C, episode 4. We have Red Shirt Yoda, Karl Steadman. How's it going, dude?
I'm all right, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good, man. Good. Cool. So we'll just dive straight in. Before we get into all your attributes, there's a million of them in front of me. What got you into CrossFit? What first got you into CrossFit?
Accident, I guess. Good question.
Yeah.
A buddy of mine turned me onto the site and was like, "Hey, this looks really hard. You should give this a go." You know, in traditional, you go first style. And yeah, that was 2003. And at the time, it was just like that old school kind of web page.
Yeah.
And I think I clicked on like a 5x5 back squat, and then just did the traditional of like, "Is that it? Like, is that what you're doing today?" And so I lurked on it for a little while, like clicked on every day, had a bit of a feel for the thing, and it had like a message board on there as well. And so just kind of lurked around there, looked at what was going on. Liked the vibe there, to be honest. Kind of liked it. It was, you know, a bit old school, a bit hard, like looked pretty good. And then jumped in on my first workout after that, and then it beat the living crap out of me. It really did. I mean, I had to take like a week off of training. I was beaten up. I mean, I had no concept of scaling and everything. You know the drill. So just beat myself into the deck. And then, then I was just like, damn, that was really cool. And I really enjoyed it. So in a sadistic way, right? I think like we all did at the start.
Yeah.
So that was it. Then it just kept trying to hang, check the workout and rinse and repeat for 16 odd years.
Yeah, it's pretty
I feel like that's quite a common story though. Like, it's quite similar. Well, I mean, obviously, I think I started in 2013, I want to say, but that would have been 2013. But it was just like two of the people I was working with. We worked in like a little personal training studio, and like top floor, I'm coaching this like bums, tums, and class or whatever they used to be.
We've all been there, mate. Don't feel bad. It's fine. We've all been there, spinning and stuff.
And then I just see Graham just fly up on a set of rings they had, like, and his head just popped up, and I was like, what is this? And like, I kind of just peek over, and they're just doing some weird shit. And I was like, right, okay, like getting distracted, taking my class, and I'm like, what is this? Like, keep looking over, and they're just doing this weird shit. And then eventually I finished the class, and I'm like, oh yeah, so like, found this website called CrossFit. And like, we're going to do it again tomorrow. It's like, do you want to join in? And I was like, I'll give it a wee shot. And like, from there, just hooked. Like, just
it's addictive, isn't it?
Yeah.
Addictive and how tough it is.
Kicked a hole in the wall doing handstand push-ups. That was class.
Yeah.
The boss was away at that time, so had to try and patch that up before
get your buddy use a plaster on the phone. Like,
we've made a mistake.
yeah.
So that obviously got you into CrossFit. What made you take the leap to start coaching? Did you coach beforehand, or?
Yeah, it's all I've ever done, to be honest, mate.
Cool.
Like my first ever qualifications were kind of like way back in the day, like bog standard gym instructor stuff. And I worked like all the different facets of that. So I worked like local authority gyms. That's where I first started out, you know, like, so way back down in Orpington, and a leisure centre called the Walnuts down in North Kent.
Oh.
And so I started there for a bit. Then I moved over to David Lloyd, like the health clubs. I worked there for 3-4 years, and then I ended up moving to they're called Nuffield Positive Health now, but they were called Sona, which was a company that basically, you know, like all the big blue chip companies. So they'll have their headquarters and they'll have a gym as part of that. The company I worked for basically worked those sites. So, you know, like they go and tender to go work them. So I spent about another 3-4 years working in the HSBC Tower in Canary Wharf.
Oh yeah.
The entire 5th floor of that was actually a gym. So it's a pretty cool place to work for a good couple of years. But then decided that I'd basically seen my rear end with that fitness world. It kind of done its thing for me.
Yeah.
So ended up leaving there, and that was basically the end of it. I was looking for something else. So it's a bit of a crossroads in my life as to what I was going to do. I wasn't planning on staying in that environment anymore. I was just kind of done with the regular fitness world. Been there for a little bit. And so long story short, in a roundabout type of way, we had a very small community in the UK There's probably about 10 people max, people doing it at that time. And like 06 this was. I'd already gone and got my level 1 with a buddy, one of the other guys in the UK who flew over, and that's a mental story for anyway. So we came back and I was like, I was full CrossFit honeymoon, you know, like all in, right. It's like, this is it. And so came back and didn't really know what to do. You know, London was nuts, just got married. And on my wedding day, we'd invited everybody who did CrossFit, weirdly enough, because it was only 10 people. So a lot of them rocked up to the wedding do, and we were just sitting there having a beer, chatting. And there was another guy at the table, one of the CrossFitters, and he was up in Manchester. And he was like, I really want to give this a go too. Open up a gym, like be a dedicated CrossFit facility. Do the job like night and day, like full in. And I was like, yeah, that sounds great. Said, I'm in. You know, like I'm about 7 or 8 beers deep. I'm happy it's wedding day. Like, yeah, sounds great. Let's do it. Luckily, the missus was keen on the idea too. So she was like, yeah, that sounds great. Like, well, there's nothing keeping us in London. So yeah, we basically just kind of like gentleman's agreement over the table, and that was it. We up sticks from London, moved to Manchester, and that was it. Started the gym, CrossFit Manchester, and that was 2006, and then just started rolling.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Nice, that's cool. Yeah, so that pretty much leads us into the next part, which is like you had CrossFit Manchester, then it was CrossFit
3D, yep.
And now Ellipsis.
Yeah, that's right, yep.
Yeah, so with Ellipsis being, so on the site it says it's a private affiliate.
Yeah, I mean it's just because it's not big enough. It's our barn, mate. Like there's 2 people, you can't swing a cat in there. So it was just we were getting a lot of inquiries to the gym, which was great because we affiliated the barn, but we were actually having people legitimately asking, hey, when are your classes? I want to join, because the nearest affiliate from here is either Robbie's at Aberdeen, but that's still an hour and 15 away. Or you've got Aviemore at CrossFit Cairngorm, and that's a relatively new one with Rory.
Yeah.
So, and that's again a good hour and a half away from here. So there's a big kind of hole where there's a lot, like Afford's a big town. You got tons of people around here who are mad for a bit of CrossFit. You've got nowhere to do it. So we were actually having to fend them off. So we were like, shit, we better put something up that says that like we actually can't physically train people in a group environment. So we just kind of put that up just so as people, if they wanted to turn up, we've done the occasional, turn up, old school, we'll throw down, we'll do a workout together. And if you need help with any of the movements, I can watch over it, you know, like not charging for it, just trying to be
helping out.
Just trying to be a good dude, you know what I mean?
Saves a queue of people showing up at your house.
Showing up.
But I mean, the weird thing was it shows that there's a need for it and there's a want for it. And, you know, trying to figure out a way of doing that, because everybody's so spread out up here. You know, I think the weird thing about this horrible, crazy, odd situation we're in now is showing me that you can use this as a platform to be pretty damn successful. It's not perfect, but pretty damn successful at reaching people in their own homes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I see I've seen your recent post, or one of your recent posts, is that you're taking the affiliate online. Is that, are you going to do your own program then and things like that?
It was a plan. You see, like I follow personally CrossFit Linchpin, which is an old mentor of mine, Pat Sherwood's programming. It's great stuff. You know, like I'm not the most resilient of athletes. So whenever I'd go off on a tangent and follow dedicated programming for whatever reason and whatever style that took, I'd always end up more snapped than I would progress, or I'd get really good and then the volume would tear me off. And I mean, I'm not the smartest, so I wouldn't scale too much and do that anyway. Right. But the good thing about this was, and I've been hanging on that now for like 4 years, and it's just right for me. It strikes all the right notes. It's I agree with his ethos of like training should be a supplement to your life, you know, not your life. You know, if you're spending 8 hours in the gym, things have gone a bit weird for you. But hey, but if that's what your goal is, you know, you want to compete in CrossFit, then you've got to be putting them hours in. But for me, this is just a lifestyle thing, so I was cool that way. So we were planning on using, because as part of his programming, he's got like a limited equipment option, which was around way before it was a necessity, I guess. So he said, hey, if you can get yourself a pair of like 22.5 dumbbells for dudes, 15 kilo dumbbells for the dudettes. If you actually had like a wall mounted pull-up rig with like rings hanging off them, if you had those going and you had a jump rope, he said, then I can give you world-class fitness. And so I always thought that would be a super cool idea to get that going, you know, like actually just say, hey, cool, get that equipment, which would cost you not much. I mean, a couple of £100 probably, but not mental amounts. You know, like,
things,
not like you don't need all singing, all dancing echo bikes and C2 whatever.
Yeah,
you can do it with that. And if you had that, then you could have somebody lead somebody through the program, and it would be a good idea. And I think it is, but it's and I agree. We ran it past headquarters because we just wanted to make sure that we would have their blessing in doing so. And they were very appreciative of the idea. They think it's great. It works very well in the current climate, but that as a model moving forwards, I don't think they were particularly happy about having a completely virtual affiliate. You know, this was always about the in-person experience, which I totally get. So it's just one of those ones where it's like, it seemed like a good idea, and it probably is in the current environment. And moving forwards, I think we would probably still explore that alongside a regular day-to-day class program. That you know, like, so that's what I'm helping with Drake right now with his stuff in Nuremberg. Is they're starting to sneak people, well, not sneak, they've been allowed. They're bringing people back into the gym. Yeah, but there's still a lot of people who are at home. So he's like, I think I'm going to keep this going moving forwards, but he just didn't actually have any trainers who could do it. So I was like, hey, so I don't mind doing it. So I think that could be a good way forwards of being able to spread your wares as a trainer as well. If this is a formula keeps going, which it probably will do, then I think it's a great way of keeping your members happy if they can't make it to the gym. You know, you can be like, hey, we've got a 5 o'clock Zoom call if you can't make it after work
class.
or whatnot. And you could kind of like hive that out to whoever. You could just spread your wares, you know. Liam, you could be coaching somewhere in Abu Dhabi if someone wanted you to go do it, you know. So it's a pretty good way of spreading the love, I think.
Yeah, so we've had a few. Sorry, when you go.
No, I was going to say, I think it also makes you quite like, because I've been doing a few sessions online, and I think it makes you almost not a better coach, but you have to be a little bit more creative, and you can't just rely on everything you would normally do in the gym. You've got to kind of use your mind a little bit, especially like my client, she's been doing a lot of weightlifting, and not physically being there, like to help fix little things here and there. You've got to like properly sit down and I've got to think about what I'm doing here before I then just like just go and do a clean and jerk. It's fine. Like
you got to position them right.
And like all this kind of like just makes you a little bit better. And I think skills that you can maybe take from this and bring it back into the gym as well, which is quite cool. Yeah,
no, I agree, because I've done a couple of the online level ones now as well, and they're you have to you have to set yourself up for success to be able to see and correct. Otherwise, you just can't, you know. So you have to talk to people about like, hey, cool, all right. Once you go through the initial brief, you're like, right, we need to set ourselves up here. So can you go back out into your training area? And then you have to be like, well, can I see you? Like if you were to do a shoulder press, can I see you from your knuckles down to your feet? And if I can't, then we're pretty screwed. So you have to be like, all right, can we adjust it, fix that up? And then you almost have to go through a little bit of a dance moves with them at the start. It's nuts. But you're like, all right, here's some basic directions. You know, like, hey, face forwards. And when you go like profile right, everybody turns. And then you're going to go profile left, right? And then you're going to go like 45. And then you check, you can see everybody. And then you're like, all right, let's go. Now we're good to go. And you're exactly right. It just takes a little bit of like foresight, a bit of planning to help you to do your job. Otherwise, you can just be like, seeing somebody doing push-ups and like they're in the screen.
Air squats is just a crotch. You're like, oh, wait, what's going on?
Exactly. Well, depending on how you vibe, mate, that might be a good day for you. You never know. Not much coaching though.
Oh yeah. Because we've had a few members mention already. Like, obviously, we're still in this, and some of them are asking, like, is this still going to go ahead when the gym opens? Is it going to be a service that's going to be available? So hopefully something that the guys keep and it doesn't just kind of fall away, because she was saying like sometimes with our kids and with our works, you can't take that hour and a bit to get to the gym.
Exactly.
Come back again. So.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's, it's a great way of being able to reach the market that we know we want to help with the program. You know, it's great that I get to surround myself with fire breathers and watch them crush the world and all that kind of stuff. But if I'm being honest, if like the thing that keeps me in coaching and fired up is just genuinely helping folk crush life. You know, like I'm not seeing another unbelievable mutant crush another 2 minutes and change Fran is like, boo. It's like, okay, great. But, it's just But seeing that daily progress from regular folk, which really fires me up. But there's a lot of people who are genuinely afraid to come into CrossFit gyms, you know? And I mean, we do our best, right? If we can get people across that threshold, then we break down those barriers with community and being like cool with it. But it's hard to get people through that barrier. They're like, oh, it's not for me. It's too tough. But you can remove all those barriers by just saying, well, that's all right. Well, you know, we'll come into your home. No one's watching you because they're too busy focused on what they're doing. Yeah. I'll look after you. We'll do a little bit of workout. I'll tell you what to do. I'll teach you. And then after that, job done. And you never, you know, like you don't have to walk into a CrossFit gym, which can be mildly intimidating for some folk. And so I think I'm always looking for the positives in any situation. And I think that could be a really big one that we as CrossFit community can keep hold of. Like this environment, it's not ideal, but it's definitely a stepping stone. Like it's a good bridge between doing NOUT and actually getting into the gym.
Yeah, 100%. So that kind of leads into, obviously you were in not a commercial gym, but the commercial style of like the bigger bases in Manchester and then in 3D. What are the biggest things what are the biggest differences of being in Ellipsis right now, which is pretty much out the way from everything? Like I know it's other than the people, but when you go.
Well, I think the irony is, I think I posted about this the other day because it was actually pretty cool. It was like a moment of realization. This was always the dream, you know. Like when I first started CrossFit, people were posting up like their 2-car garage setups, and I was like, man, look at that thing. That's amazing. Because nobody even had a conceptual idea of what like these all singing, all dancing CrossFit arenas would look like because they didn't exist at that time. Now, the first actual CrossFit box I walked into was for my level 1 out in San Diego. And I walked in and I was just like, you can run out of a roller shutter door and come back in and do your pull-ups immediately. And like, there's a barbell and you can like, you don't have to run to different rooms or worry about some turd just grabbed your gear while you're off on the treadmill or something. You know, it's like, didn't have to worry about it. So I was blown away with those things. And so ironically enough, when I look at the barn setup now, I'm like, that always was the dream. And we got, I think, I know I did. I got dragged off with trying to keep up with the Joneses when I got into like the affiliate war, you know, like there'd be more opening up around and about. And you're like, damn, they've got more space. So that's what we need. Well, damn, they run an open gym, which was hell on earth for me, you know, because you just can't manage that stuff. And people are doing mad stuff all the time. And I was like, I couldn't really coach people in open gym. I'm like, damn, whoa. So for me, you know, like it's crazy. If I'd have put my blinkers on and recognized that what we were doing in our original 3D before we went to the ridiculous monstrosity thing that it is now, was we had it made there. Like we had small classes, we had a tight community, and our space dictated the fact that we couldn't have people training in open gym, and it was just nothing really happened. So it was always coached. So there was always a community. There was not like this group versus this group or this thing, which was my bad for not being able to manage correctly. But it was something I look back in hindsight and I'm like, damn, that was where it was good. We allowed ourselves to get dragged off by trying to keep up with a more commercial enterprise without realizing that what we had was just good, man. Like a mom and pop style gym, you know, like little, just awesome. Who gives a crap if someone opens up next door because our people ain't going nowhere, you know? It's hindsight's always 20/20, right? You're always very clear when you're looking back. But it was, I think it was when we got to that commercial side of it, we just realized that this is not what we want. It was almost the success led us to grow into the larger place. And as soon as we got into the larger place, we're like, oh, massive mistake. Like, I don't like this. So that was kind of the start of the trying to get out of that situation and bring it back to its roots.
Is that what kind of brought you up to Scotland almost? You got that opportunity to step back a little bit?
I mean, I think so. Yeah. I mean, at that point, so when we decided that we were going to try and back away from the full-time running of 3D down south, we had in our mind sort of the retirement plan. Everybody's got it, right? And what we working towards, what we're doing, you know, like you have those kind of big grown-up decision bollocks chats that you have to do. And we were like, right. So we eventually saw ourselves in Scotland because we'd spent a week here on honeymoon. My mum's side of the family are all from like Glasgow, Carlisle way and stuff. So I had a lot of big draw up here, spent a lot of my youth up here, and the Highlands are beautiful. So we were like, that's the plan. And then we realized we didn't really have much need to be in Manchester anymore. Like neither of us are from Manchester. So we were like, well, cool. Let's start looking at what it would take to put that into plan and start working towards moving up to the Highlands. And when we started looking at it, which was a lesson for us, instead of having something as a pipe dream, actually start laying in some foundations. As soon as we started doing that, we were like, well, it might not be ideal, but we can get up there now. So we were like, right. And again, just like the move from London to Manchester, we were like, fuck it, let's do it.
Let's do it. Yeah.
We'll figure it out when we get up there. And so we did. Cool. Yeah, just took the leap.
Yeah, sweet.
And I mean, it helped because my role with CrossFit was every weekend, you know. So it was all I needed access to was an airport.
Yeah, cool.
That's fair. That's fair. So I take it that's what kind of, how did you then transfer from that into the seminar side of it?
Oh, so that, it's a long time ago now. Huh? So there was, when we came back and we were running the gym, we've been running it for probably, this is like 06 now. So 06, 07-ish. We've been running the gym for at least a year and we've been working hard on that. And the level 2 popped up as a brand new qualification.
Yeah.
And it's very different than what the current level 2 credential is. It's more equivalent to the level 4 credential that there is now. So it was, as you can imagine, there's a big gulf between those two. But anyway, so we were lucky in that we'd been coaching for at least a year, like hours and hours and hours a day. And we both came from a training background. So when we went to the level 2, we got given some feedback on how to run groups, similar to what the level 2 is now. But then day 2 was an exam. So it was, you turned up, you got given a group of people, and then they were like, right, coach them. Here's your movement, go. And then you had, it's kind of rough. I mean, it's old school CrossFit style. Just throw you in the deep end, see if you can swim. So you had your assessors, and they were watching you, and then they were assessing you on criteria like how effective was your teaching. Same sort of stuff we're looking at now, right? So can you see faults? Can you correct faults? Presence and attitude, group management, your own demonstration, all that kind of good stuff. And then basically after you'd done your little spell of coaching, then they were like, all right, see ya. And so go and take an early lunch. And then you just had to hang out all day, shitting yourself. And then they called you back in at the end of the day. And then they sat you down in the old school, horrible, like interview style, right? You, Cable, and then like 3 of them all with like a notebook, just staring at you. And then you're like, all right. And then they just give it the old, so how do you think you did? You're like, oh, fucking no. Like, just is kind of horrible, but cool all at the same time. Kind of blocked it out of my mind a little, I guess. But yeah, so I happened to pass it, and so did my business partner as well, which was good because it was only like 4 or 5 of us out the entire course that passed. It had a huge attrition rate just because people would be going and sit in their level 1, have done no coaching, and then see, level 2, turn up and just get like reamed because they're like, people would just be like, well, you can't teach, you can't see any fucking faults, and therefore we didn't correct any, you know. So they were just getting beasted, and people coming down out the stairs crying and stuff. I'm like, what is this? Anyway, so yeah, exactly right. So I think we scored pretty well on the overall assessment criteria, I guess. So we came home, and then we set about going, we need to get the level 1 outside of the US, simply to spread the message through the UK, through Europe. You know the drill. So just trying to get as many people exposed as possible. So we managed to secure the first level 1 outside of the continental US in 07, I think. No, 08. I want to say 08. Yeah, 08. And that was at our box. So we were in an old mill, but luckily on the other side of the mill was a gymnastics club. So we managed to kind of like borrow their facility as well. So, and luckily the weather was decent as well. So we had loads of groups outside, but there was tons. People flew over. Anyway, so cool. I thought that I was going to be doing the role of host. So looking after the team, setting chairs out, coffees, just making sure everything ran smoothly. And they were like, cool, well, we're doing a trainer meeting at so-and-so time on Saturday morning. And it was nowhere near the finely tuned drill that it is now. They got lost. They got so late, like the whole seminar stood there waiting, and like, it's just like, this is not going well. But anyway, back in the day, it was cool.
Class. Yeah.
So they turned up, and then they went, right, we're going to do the trainer meeting. Carl, come and sit in. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm just expecting, I'm just there doing whatever, telling me what they need and when it. And they started reading out the groups, a bit like we do now on the seminars. It's like, look at roles and responsibilities across the 2 days and all that kind of good stuff. And then they were like reading down the group assignments, like, you know, big names. And I'm like, oh, this is cool. You know, like Nicole, group 1, you know, like Sherwood, group 2, Todd Whitman, group 3. And then they're like, Karl, 4, like
what?
Whoop. And you know, you just do the okay. Yeah, I'm used to this by now. You know, like CrossFit. Every exposure I've had to these guys, I'm getting like thrown under the bus every time. So I'm like, well, good.
Okay.
So then it was that, and then like I can't even remember who it was. I think it might have been Nicole. Took me to the side, Nicole Carroll, and was like, "It's cool. Just do what you did on the seminars. Teach the movements. Listening to the lectures beforehand. You'll know the movements that you're teaching, and then go out there and then do what you do. I trust you." It's like, okay, cool.
Okay.
So yeah, did that, and you know, I remember at one point I was teaching presses. So you know, the groups normally is like the L1 goes now, right?
Yeah.
Shoulder press, push press, push press, and you have about 50 or so minutes of doing that stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm doing the just trying to help people move a little better, group of 10. And I look over and I've got Coach Glassman himself, right? And Nicole has stood there watching my group. And little did I know, but there's been some like, now I know historically some horror stories on staff where coaches just like walk straight into the middle of somebody's group and just like taken it over and just been like, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong, fix it to the trainer, and then just left. And like just absolutely just destroyed that trainer in front of all of the group. And so the best thing was that didn't happen to me, luckily enough. He just kind of looked and then walked off. So I was like,
cool.
If I'd have known that beforehand, I think that would have buckled me. You know, like, oh my goodness. So I'm guessing long story, I guess. Sorry, team.
That's all good.
So off of that, they then had booked in another seminar. I think it was a couple of months later. So I think the first one was in like a September or something like that. And the next one was a February of the next year, but it was in Sweden. That was the next level one. And so Nicole was like, hey, you know, old school, can you get to Sweden? I'm like, I'm sure I can figure that out. And luckily that's ironically where I was born and where my mum still lives. So I was like, oh, at least I've got a place to stay when I get out there. Mm. So she was like, cool, be here at this facility for 8 a.m. on Saturday on so-and-so date. I'm like, Roger.
Okay.
Made it happen. Turned up there. There was a group of us there as well. I think we'd been like they were kind of like looked at as they'd all passed like that level 2. They were all based in Europe or they'd been known to others as well. So there was a group of like, I think there were 4 of us, I want to say, in that initial one. Yeah, so 4, and it was all very official now. Now we were handed a T-shirt, which had CrossFit written on it, and we all looked the same, and it was like, oh, damn, now it's real. And then we were actually assigned somebody who kind of stayed with us throughout the entire weekend. So kind of like a buddy system where we were thrown under the bus a lot of the coaching and the teaching, but then they were like formally assessing us. We didn't really know why. I just thought I was still there helping. Yeah. And then at the end of the weekend, Nicole took me aside and was like, so yeah, we'd like to offer you a job. And I'm like, doing what? What? Like doing what? And it was like, well, we're looking to develop into Europe, and we need to develop a European side, and we'd love to have you come work for us. And I was like, yes.
Yeah, cool.
She's like,
cool.
And you get paid. I'm like, fucking even better. Like, ideal. Yeah. So yeah, after that there was me, and there were three other characters who got bought on at that point, and that was the original 4 Euro crew, if you will. And that was it. That began the journey. From then on, there was a little bit of a break until the first seminar. They weren't anywhere near as regular as they were before lockdown. Yeah. It was like every couple of months, maybe. Yeah. And then I reckon it was up until about 2010 where it really started accelerating. And then it basically became my full-time job. I was going away every weekend, like every year, to just far-flung places. Because you've got to earn your stripes at the start as well, right? When you're the new kid, you get slammed with all the long haul. So China one weekend, Japan the next, and flying home in between that. Can't wait.
Really?
That sounds great. Yeah, let's do it anyway.
I'm here.
Where's the coolest place you've been?
Dude, that's a great question. I guess like define cool. They're all so different, you know. Like
that's also
China's
true.
mental.
Yeah, that's fair.
China's mental just because it's mental, like culturally and everything. And like you got like absolute poverty and absolute opulence, like on the same street. It's just nuts, right? You're like, whoa. Hong Kong was a blast because I've never been there. So I went there and it's like Little Britain. Like even the street signs are exactly the same.
Yeah.
Like even the bollards are the same, mate. It just weirded me out, but it's cool. I got drunk with a buddy in Hong Kong and thought it was a great idea to get my knuckles tattooed out there. So I did that too. That was blinding. Got good stories and stuff. But everywhere's so different, man. You know, like everywhere's got its own little unique little things that make you kind of miss the fact that I can't get there at the minute, or just leave you with good memories. You know, Scandinavia is just beautiful. Yeah, like scenery from all wants and purposes. Scenery. So I guess it's a beautiful place. I love UK gigs as well because the banter's second to none. I'm not going to lie to you. You know, like it's a unique thing to this little island that we have, right?
Definitely.
The banter's always fucking brilliant. Whereas it's same, like you go to Ireland, same. Everyone's just ripping the piss, and it's you miss that a little bit unless you do a military gig in the US. If you do like a military gig, they have the same level of like savagery banter, where it's you know like no one takes it personally. It's just funny as fuck.
Just funny,
and that's great. Cool. But you know, but other than that, you have to mind your P's and Q's a bit. So I'm pretty grateful that over here we don't have to do too much.
Class.
See, I wouldn't
be able to pick.
Short answer. The short answer is
that's fair. That's a fair one. That's a fair one.
Sweet. So that last little bit maybe answered my next question. Like, what was the process for you to becoming or getting the title Flow Master?
I don't know if that weird title, isn't it?
Well, so remember I had the level 1.
It's a weird name.
Joe Westerlin was like, "Oh yes, I'll be the Flow Master for this weekend." And everyone was like,
"What?
What is that?
Go again?"
Can you imagine putting that down on your job title for like getting a mortgage and stuff? It's a nightmare. They're like, Flow Master? What is that? You a DJ?
No, not really.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess the term's a weird CrossFit one. You got coined years back, it's just like an old thing. But yeah, lead instructor is basically the thing, right? Now, all that basically means is being a Flow Master, you can do every part of the seminar. That's all it means. So you're there. You could fulfill demo responsibilities, registration. You can give all the lectures. You can run groups. So you can do all of that kind of stuff. And the cool thing that I like about CrossFit, as opposed to many other places as well, is you don't get given that title. You have to earn it. So nobody ever walks in at Flow Master or lead instructor. Everybody has spent time on the demo box, running groups, giving lectures, getting smashed with feedback, and and if you're successful, then you get more responsibilities and so on and so forth. So they're always on the lookout for, I guess, leadership potential, which was always a bit weird to me because I was like super happy of just doing the job. So I'd be sat there in the back, running the groups, having a blast, ripping the piss out of folk, helping them move a little better. And then I'm like, oh, cool. Now I get to listen to these big wigs give these big conceptual lectures. And I'm like, I don't want to give that stuff. That's like hard. Like, you don't know too much. So I'd be listening to like, you know, your Pat Sherwoods, your Chris Spielers, your Adrian Bosmans, your Chuck Carswells, these absolute icons in the training department. Oh, and they're immensely talented. They're brilliant to listen to and just good folk. And I'd be like, cool, sitting there chilling. I mean, Nicole Carroll gave me my nutrition lecture on my level 1, and Coach Glassman gave me my what is CrossFit and what is fitness lectures. You know what I mean? You're like, damn, it's like there's no way I want anything to do with that. You can keep that shit, no dramas. And so I hadn't even worked 10 level 1 seminars, and we used to get an email in the week preceding a course, right? Just again laying out roles and responsibilities so you can prep. And we had one coming up that was in London, and Pat Sherwood was the flow, and it had Flow Master, Pat Sherwood, and then it had in brackets afterwards, it had my name and a number 1 next to it. And my immediate thought was that I'd fucked up. Like my immediate thought was, oh, I'm having to go back through the internship here, you know, like, because I just thought, oh, I'm being assigned Pat. He needs to keep an eye on me. I'm like, cool, okay, I got you. Like, I must have messed up. I'll find out what it is and see if I can put it right. And he got in the email, was like, yeah, congrats, bro. And I'm like, what? And he was like, yeah, so I'm going to get together on the Friday night and I'm going to explain what it is. I'm going to we'll kick the rest of the team out to go amuse themselves. And we agreed to meet in a pub just around the corner from CrossFit Central London. And then he laid it out. He was like, yeah, so this is what it means you're interning to do my role. And I'm like,
oh,
no.
no.
I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, no, like, you scared the shit out of me. Like, the responsibility and the level of, like, you have to be so on the money with that. And I was like, I don't want to do that. That doesn't sound like fun at all. And so he's a good friend of mine. And at the time, he was an even better friend, because he just said, look, mate, you got two options. You can do it and do it well, or you can do it and whinge about it.
Yeah.
Fair.
That's
like,
yeah.
Those are your choices.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, no one really likes it if you whinge too much, so I guess I better crack on. So yeah, I then had, I think there was about three or so where they push more responsibilities onto you, like running the overall timeline, making sure groups are where they need to be, a few more challenging situations of like, well, you know, what would you do in this situation? And just seeing if you can run, as wanky a term as it is, the flow of the seminar, just making sure that kind of goes well, ends on time, everybody has a blast, questions are answered, all that kind of good stuff. And then after that, they were like, all right, cool, you're good to go. And I'm like, I still haven't even mastered if I'm happy with running the squats group yet, man. I've worked 10 of these seminars. But that was good. I appreciated the trust that they put in me.
Yeah.
And I tried not to let it down. Been working for the seminar staff now about 11 years, I guess. So hopefully I've squared it away by now. Otherwise, I guess I better quit.
Sweet. Well, you must hear it all the time at your level ones, your level twos. people asking like, how do I get on staff? How do you start becoming a seminar staff? But so what advice would you give to someone if that was their goal?
I mean, the basic prerequisites as we speak are you have to have that level 3 credential. So you have to square away that certified CrossFit trainer credential, which is a doozy. That's not to be sniffed at. That's a very legit credential when you get it.
Yeah.
It's the equivalent to a degree in strength and conditioning. So it's you got to know your stuff. But that shows a basic entry level of just, I guess, knowledge. And a lot of the questions in there are on application of CrossFit. You know, like details on programming and understanding that for variance, details on nutrition and all that good stuff, and your implementation of it. So I guess that kind of proves that you're living and breathing the ethos more than anything. Cool. Then it's just a matter of you get that. I'll be honest, if you've got things that the company are looking for, like you can speak multiple languages, that'll bump you up the chain straight away. Yeah. And then other than that, it's just a matter of you apply. I think it's through applications at CrossFit.com. Just saying, hey, I've got my CCFT, interested in interning. I also got all of these other things that maybe I could help bring to the community, all that kind of good stuff. It's all about service. They're on the lookout for egos, you know, and we can see them in the internship too. So they're more driven by service-oriented people, you know, wanting to give to the community. So they'll do that. And then if you get accepted into the internship process, then it's very much it's very regimented now. I mean, over the years, as everything has in CrossFit, it's become a lot more systemized, which I think is good, because then it means that there's expectations there too. People know what to do, rather than winging it like we all did it back in the day. So on your first internship, it's literally a shadow role. You'll be assigned a head trainer, and you just attach yourself to their hip and just you know, watch, observe, ask questions, get involved. And you know, we test them all the time. We throw them under the bus a little bit and see how they react. If they melt, then we're like, you're not going to do well in this situation. We need people that are going to rise to that a little bit go-getters, you know, self-motivated, if you will. And then with each subsequent internship, if you clear the previous one, then you get given more responsibilities. You're still always with another member of staff, because it's a fine line to tread, because if you imagine you were on that seminar and you're being coached by an intern, then you're like, I didn't pay to be coached by an intern. I got paid to be coached by a member of staff. And so we're very much there throughout that entire process. So if they stumble or if stuff isn't quite right, then we're straight in and we screw them up and make sure that's all good. So the standard is always kept up high while we're almost assessing for a new member of staff. And then based on that, if you do well, then we can punch a recommendation up the chain. And then it's still up to the bosses as to whether they think you can make it. The weird thing is there's so many people vying for positions on staff now that if you might be like really good, like you just might be a really good trainer, but just be not right for the company at that time, because they're like, you know, you're a English speaking only dude and you can only work in the UK. We've got to be like, well, you're going to have to be like gold to get through the internship, because we've got so many members of staff in the UK now, you know, so it's, but if you were like, yeah, you know, I can speak English, but I can speak French and German and all this other stuff, they're going to be like, well, okie dokie, maybe, you know, so it's the nature of any company now. It's up here, with the level of training. So yeah, that's kind of the internship process, really.
That's cool. Sweet. It was way more into that than what I ever knew. That was cool. So moving away from that, going but in the past a little bit, you were on the coaching team for Sam Briggs in 2013.
That's correct. Yeah.
The year that she won. Funny.
That's
that.
right. Yeah.
Funny that.
Funny that.
Hey.
How was that?
The stars aligned right for her. The stars aligned right. She's a monstrous athlete and a great human being as well, you know. So it was the stars aligned well that year. She's coming back off of a solid rest. Training was going well, and she crushed it that year. Well, she crushes it every year, let's be honest. She's an absolute machine. But that was pretty cool. It was very cool experience to be a part of, and very grateful for it. It's cool.
Yeah, cool. The with obviously coaching like an elite athlete, how did that compare to coaching like your general athlete? Obviously, all your ins and outs specific to them, but how was the experience for you?
You know, I felt it was still the same. Like a lot of that role was damage limitation. trying to stop people from beating themselves up so bad. Like they just seem to be like masochists. So I mean, Sam's just a very resilient athlete in terms of you could throw anything at her and she was just like, eat it for breakfast and keep rolling. Even at the start when I first got to know her, I was just like, she can just cope with more of this crazy stuff than I've seen of any other human, you know, like this would snap people off. And she's like, what else? So, and I think I spent a lot of my time when I was coaching people, even that would just after CrossFit for lifestyle improvements, you know, they just think that more was better. And it's like, no, more is necessary if you want to compete. It just is, you know, those are the facts, right? But more isn't better if you want to get better at life, you know, like it's actually less. You need to turn the volume down, you know. I'm just sound like a grumpy old man, but that's basically what I believe it. It's like, if you just want to be really fit and really healthy, you want to turn that volume down. And so I've probably spent a lot of my time trying to be like the I told you so dad with my athletes, you know, like where it'd be, you can't tell people like flat out no. Sometimes you have to for their own good, but more often than not, it's like, go ahead, feel free, have a play with whatever else you want to do, and we'll come back in about 6 to 8 weeks and we'll see how we're doing. And more often than not, they're like, fuck, you were right. Hey, and I'm like, I know, because I did that.
We've all
it just didn't work, you know. And so I think that was the fun bit, and working with Sam was just trying to plug the gaps, because she's a smart athlete. So she was, you know, she'd go to the best people that she could find for the different things that she felt she needed help with, right? So she'd go to a gymnastics coach and get a very specific gymnastics programming there to do. She would also go to like the best in terms of lifting as well. So she would have like an Olympic lift program and a basic power lift program. And all of these things were kind of like floating around in the ether. And my job was to try and mash them together, see what she was doing on a daily basis and be like, well, what kind of CrossFit-y stuff can I jam in here that's not going to like mess up the focus and also not just beat her into the ground, right? So that was basically the process. Really, it was more like I was just trying to figure out where I could fill the holes in the work that she was doing, like the very structured work.
Cool. Yeah, sweet.
It's fun. It's challenging. I mean, it was a cool experience, but the competitive side of CrossFit didn't give me the same buzz, I don't think, as coaching every day, just general cool folk, you know, like I get it's the sport of anything really attracts people, you know, like I want to go and compete in something. It never really did. I just kind of fell into it by helping. And so, and then as soon as I realized, there was one year, I think it was, where it was the second year that I'd been out there, but I was actually on the judging team out there because Sam's a smart cookie. Didn't really think that she needed me to be in a corner, being the bag man, you know. So that might have been a miscommunication at the time, but it was like, no, I'm just going to go work, because I went out there one year and I saw all my buddies who I worked with, seminar staff, grafting, like hard, running all over the place, judging here, doing that, or fulfilling all of these other roles that really don't get looked at the games. Like people graft for nothing. It's mad. They graft at the games. And I was like, I feel like a turd. Like I'm just I'm in the stands and just being like, all right, drink a beer, and all my buddies are getting like savaged. I just felt like a turd. So in my mind, I was like, I'm not doing this again. Like if this comes around and I'm coming to the games, then I'm still going to try and help and do what I can in relation to Sam. But I'm also, I can't leave my buddies, man. This just sucks. So yeah, I did that. And I was weirdly enough, I was on the shop floor when Sam won. I was just on another lane. So I'm like,
it's like,
good job, rep. I was totally concentrating.
That's cool.
So yeah, it was good, and she deserved that win, man. She's she did really well. Please.
That was the first. I think that's actually the thing that got me into CrossFit, was that CrossFit Games. Like obviously seeing them do that, and then you're like sitting at home and you're googling and like comes up with this YouTube CrossFit Games. You're like, it was the 2013 games where Rich Froning has the pink t-shirt on and everything.
That was his second year, right? But that was Rich's second year,
and that was his third.
Where he won. Oh, do you know what? My games knowledge, I would lose. You know, everyone would think that I know. Like people are like, you know, when they say to you, hey, do you remember 17.2? And I'm like,
nope. Nope.
Like, no, I don't know what that is, buddy. But but I get met with these absolute CrossFit nerds who are cool as hell, and they're just like, hey, I can tell you the inside leg measurement of Jason Khalipa in 29. Like,
what use is that?
There's just some crazy people out there who just like can stato it on stuff, right? But it's I'm not one of those guys, unfortunately.
Because that was the first time I kind of got into it, but that was maybe a year or so later. But that was the video that popped up, because I used to do a bunch of like the parkour and free running stuff back when.
Oh, cool! That shit's hard, bro.
So
he's fucking mental.
Did that for a bit as like I wouldn't call it an athlete, but did bits and bobs, and I got into the coaching side of things. And one day it was like, cool, let's find some conditioning stuff on like the stuff that we're doing for the classes. And the right-hand column was like, fittest man in the world wins. Must have been the third time in a row. And I was like, what is this? Click on it. And then it was that year. And then there was like a documentary of him and Sam that I don't know where they were. They were in some football stadium or something. I don't know.
I think that was probably still at the games, right?
Yeah. At the time, I had no idea what was going on. And then accidentally booked into a class in the gym James was working in. And then that was that. But
that's pretty cool, man.
Yeah.
It's the original parkour stuff, like the sentiments from that. I believe in that, you know, like the original dude that invented all of that stuff, and like Paris suburbs and stuff in Leon and things. His whole thing was like, hey, you know, why are we getting fit? Why do you get fit? It's like, well, you get fit to be useful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I was like, fucking right on. That's like, that is exactly in a beautiful little catchphrase that needs to be on the back of every damn CrossFit t-shirt. It's not I get fit to have the world's largest back squat or 1 rep max snatch or whatever. It's like, hey, what do you do CrossFit for? Well, because I want to be useful.
A useful human being.
It's like,
that was a good few years of my life back in the day, doing some crazy,
that's cool, buddy.
Crazy stuff, climbing some things and jumping off of stuff.
Jesus Christ.
That was the extreme version, but we wouldn't teach that. We would just teach people how to move and.
Yeah, exactly. They always move so well. They have it's gymnastics, right? So you've got such good body control, but it's more than that. It's about keeping momentum into your movements as well whilst running and stuff like that. Like whenever I see that from guys and girls that can do it, you're blown away. Like, how the hell did you get up that? And also, how the hell did you not snap yourself when you landed? Like just that carrying momentum. And it's I remember we bought in a parkour school at the gym years ago,
sweet.
And the dude just took us through a session, And it was epic, you know, just a little bit of confidence building drills and just you charging at stuff and launching yourself, doing those like the Kong bounds where your feet come between your legs and stuff. Yes. Shit, I've got to get back into that. That was cool.
Yeah, do it.
Snap my shit up. I'm 40 now. Come on, bro.
never too old. Never too old.
Never too old.
So that last little bit's right into the next bit I had written down. So you've been a judge at head judge at the European and Meridian regionals.
That's right. Yep.
And then was it just like judging at the games, or was it head judge role, or?
Yeah, I was one of the head judges for the Masters and Teens divisions for the last 2 evolutions of the games as well. So I was over, away from we used to call it kind of like the circus, the madhouse. You know, we were away from that where it had a little bit more of an old school vibe because you know, like the teens are just kind of they're driven, but they're still kids, so you look after them more than anything else. And the Masters, they're the old guard, so they know what's up. You know. So you don't have to they're not asking mental questions and they're not neurotic about stuff. They're just like, like, all right, I know it's thrusters and burpees. Can we get over this so that I get on with it? You're like, Roger, yeah. So it's a little bit more of a chilled vibe there, although still just as professional to the end. But yeah, it was, that was cool doing that. But yeah, that's a whole different level of pressure doing that. Mm-hmm. But it's good though, because you're more there as a support for the real people who are there working hard, you know, like the people that volunteer to judge at these things. Damn, I mean, they get a pair of trainers if they're lucky, and they're there all the time and they're grafting, you know, and you know, sometimes there's time pressure because you've got like TV things to go at, and you end up like yelling at people. You feel like a turd, but you're like, right, we've got to fucking move, get over here, you know, like, and you sledge them hard, and then you're like, they're volunteers, you know. Even we have to have a bit of a word with ourselves as well. We're trying to run something, and you're like, well, there's a line you have to tread. Yeah. So yeah, it's fun, but I enjoy it because that for me is the beating heart of the community. That service again, you know, like it's the same folk that volunteer to run on after a workout's done and wipe up sweat and blood and spit. And possibly even spew, maybe even a little shit. You never quite know. And you're like, and like they're volunteers, man. Like that's the beating heart and soul of a community. That's not service. I don't know what is. Which is why whenever I hear, you know, like people always sledge about like judging standards, I'm like, come and spend some time on the dance floor. Talk shit about judging standards, and I'll listen to you. But up until that day.
That's
you're just a turd. Ain't listening.
Like one of the most like stressful things. Like I can't even imagine being on the floor judging, because like in the gym, like judging someone for their opener, I'm like
panicking.
Can you get this right? Oh shit! I can't even imagine having when it's like when there's maybe money on the line or a spot to the games or something like that. Like take my hat off to these people, because like I'd crumble and die. I couldn't do it.
If
I got it wrong,
it can be a bit spicy. But I mean, that's the thing, you know. The good thing is, even up at those high levels, ironically enough, it's easier up at the top level because they've already come through several stages of kind of selection-ish. So by the time you get there, like for example, if you're judging somebody who moves so well, like Fronin, I'm going to be honest with you, you're a rep counter. Very rarely are you taking a rep off of him because he knows, and his movement's good enough and he moves well enough to the eye that you're like, all day long. The only ones where it becomes a nightmare are at the people who, you know, the wannabes, if I'm honest, you know, like that middle tier of people that are excellent athletes, but they're just not quite good enough to get to that top level yet. Or they're the top dogs in their box. And because they're the top dogs in a box, you know, like folk might not hold them to the same standards, and then they'll turn up at the regionals and they're getting reamed on standards because we're holding them to it, and all of a sudden now they suck. And so that happens year after year after year. It's all good. The only danger with that is if, you know, a judge reverses themselves, then you lose all credibility in the eyes of the athlete. That's it. So, you know, like if you're unsure, it's for me, getting below parallel is clearly obvious. It either is or it isn't. And if you're like, no. So it's like that, lower. Good. And it's amazing. And if you know somebody's shady, as you start to know athletes across the years, then they come in front of you, it's pretty easy. You can just go up to them and be like, hey. It's like this unsaid, you know that I know that you know that I know that the depth might be a bit shady on wall balls. So how about we don't do it today? And then they're like, Roger. And then everything goes fine. So it's not too difficult.
Yeah. So I've always said, like, to myself, if I'm competing, or if someone's asking me like advice on competing, or if I'm down there coaching, is like, go out and make every movement like obvious. Make the movement standards obvious, so that you don't have to. The judge doesn't have to work hard, essentially. But or the other side of things is like, if you make a mistake, it's your fault. If the judge makes a mistake, it's your fault. Like, it's still your fault. It's not the judge. So the judge is there.
It's the unfortunate thing, It's like VAR, right?
Yeah.
But for me, I'm always like, when you gain experience with that stuff as well, you start to notice stuff and you start to worry, right? So the irony is, you're not allowed to coach when you're judging.
Yeah.
But you could square away a lot of people's issues super easy by just doing a couple of things. So, for example, right, if there's a workout and it's got a ton of wall ball shots coming up, right? So I see him come up and I see him taking the floor in lifting shoes. I'm immediately panicking, because I'm like, well, all right, that's going to make it harder. Because what's going to happen for you right now is everybody excessively knee initiates when they do a wall ball squat. Well, real simple, just because their torso's jammed up, so they're trying to keep as upright as possible. So they'll knee initiate, and they're already on their toes from lifting shoes, and that will more than likely get worse. Now, you jam your ass onto your calves, it don't matter. From side on, you're still above parallel. I know you can't go any lower, but the irony is, just because of the mechanical advantage you wanted from your lifting shoes and the fact that your knees are pushed too far forwards, you're not clearing parallel. So you'll be like, me as a judge on the side, I'll be like, no rep, no rep, no rep. Whereas in my head, I'm like, take your fucking shoes off and push your hips back. And you'll get below parallel every single rep, but you just ain't allowed to, right? So in the end, you're just like, no, go lower. And like, athletes getting pissed. Probably the people on the sides are getting all pissed that your coaches are getting pissed. But in your head, you're just like, if somebody just taught you how to move better, you'd be
problem would
golden.
Not be an issue.
Die. But you're just like, here's another one.
So that created another one. So we asked Mike last week. Any competition we've been to at a brief. So as the athlete at a competition, there's always some plums that ask ridiculous questions at a brief. So we asked Mike, like, what happens at the top end of the sort of sport, but have you experienced any ridiculous questions at a brief?
Yeah, I mean, too many to even bring one up as an example, man. Like, some people are like, hey, can I, like doing thrusters, can I back rack the bar? No, because then it's not a thruster. It's like, fuck. Or you just got, some people just lose their minds about, like, they're trying to find what you didn't say. And it's like, look, let's not be too complicated, right? It's adult PE, and we're trying to find who's really good at it. Like, I want to see who's really good at this stuff. And it's, nobody who wins this stuff or wins at life does it by trying to find the loophole. They're just good.
They're just good at it.
And so that's the thing that kind of, I guess, with a bit of confidence, and if you've got a strong head judge too, which I've had the pleasure to work with tons of times, they call it when they hear it. Like, if it's that guy who's just always popping up, or guy or girl, and they're just like, I'm sure you've got a question, just call them out in front of the crowd, and they'll normally kind of like ease off. But I mean, honestly, genuine questions are cool. And sometimes there can be some, over the years, there've been some real interesting workouts with like intricate chess-like maneuvers that you need to do in between rounds and stuff. And I can totally see how, especially like first ever one up there, shitting yourself about just doing a good job. Not only that, you've got to navigate a labyrinth of tasks to do too, to complete the workout. It's like, fuck this is way too hard. So I'm not surprised there are some, more often than not, the questions are about, so when do I have to move my chest piece? When do I have to, what way direction do I have to face? Like, all this kind of stuff. It's more about the logistics of the flow of the workout more than standards at this stage. You know what I mean? It's more often like, people recognize that, a thruster's a thruster. Push press is a push press, and it's not a jerk. If you unlock your knees, then you're going to get called a no rep. Like, we've all been doing this for long enough to know what the score is there. So So yeah, I'd probably say, yeah, those questions are fun. They do make me chuckle a little bit.
Cool.
Can I squat clean my first handstand push-up?
So that's the kind of stuff that happens at the level we're at.
Does my chest have to touch the floor on a burpee?
Yeah.
What? Like, of course it does.
Okay.
So
the back of your head does. Yeah, exactly.
That pretty much covers everything we had. So the Instagram questions. The first one, while judging, have you ever made a mistake that you ever had to deal with? Obviously, you just said you wouldn't go back on it, but you think you've ever made a mistake that maybe got appealed or something?
There was one where I was unsure.
Mm-hmm.
That was coaching in the finals at the games as well. Okay. And I was like, oh shit, because I was having to no rep this athlete. And it was on an old standard that was from the regional. So I'll give you the example, right? So it was parallel handstand push-ups.
Yep.
And it was naughty too, like a big deficit. And kipping was allowed, but it was an old rule where it was if your feet came outside of the width of your shoulders this way, and you kind of like whipped them out and came in. If it came out this way, then it was a no rep. And so that's what I was no repping this athlete for. Her feet were going super wide and coming back in, but for all wants and purposes, she was completing the repetition. So that's what it would look like to the rest of the crowd. So I was getting absolutely savaged because she'd kick up and it looked like it'd be a completed rep. And I'm like, no rep. And like all of her family are just here and they're like, what the fuck? I'm getting absolutely blasted.
Class.
And I was like, oh, and the thing was that hadn't been in like the original brief. It was just a standard that was a hangover from that season. And so I was like, fuck, I hope I'm right here. Because I hope this isn't something that I've just kind of like fabricated out of my mind, but I'm like, oh shit. So as I'm jogging off the field, Bosman was at like kind of shouting distance. I'm like, hey Bos, just so as you know, mate, in case there's an appeal, I was no repping for her feet going wide. And he's like, yeah, great call. And that was it. So it's like, thank fuck. But yeah, there was that horrible, I was like, because it was the finals. That was their last workout of the day. And they were the top like 10 or 20 at the games that year. So it was that could have gone real bad. But as for that, no, I think all the calls have been generally all right. Maybe I've, like undercooked on double unders or something occasionally by a couple of reps and just be like, no, give me 5 more. Like, maybe something like that. But I mean, up at that level, 5 don't mean shit. Like that's going to be done in 10 seconds less, so that's no problem.
You're confident enough in the call, then you're sweet.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's probably it. I'm trying to rack my brains. No, I think it's just the one where I wasn't sure. Yeah. That's the one that's kind of left burning imprint on my mind.
Good answer. That was cool. Equipment fails. Like obviously bikes and rollers and things, they all break all the time. You guys, maybe not you guys, but someone backstage, obviously there'll be a procedure or a just in case type thing going on. Yep. How does that normally go down? Well, I mean, honestly speaking, it depends on the equipment provider. If it's Rogue, their shit don't break. It just doesn't. It's very simple. Like if it's not that, then be on standby. And it depends. So assault bikes always used to be the bane of our existence because the monitors would shit the bed and all kinds of weird stuff like would happen all the time. So we'd have to have all of these elaborate procedures in play. Same with the assault runners as well. Like if the monitors ever went down, we always used to have a play, which was like, if it's a dude, then it's normally, if you're counting like the arm pumps, it would be 1, 2, that would be 1 calorie normally in terms of the dude's giving it effort. So you judge, we had like these contingency plans where it was like 2 right arm pumps would be 1 calorie. And you just tell them to keep going and have the judge rolling. On the assault runners, if you actually look on most of like good level competitions, they've actually got like a white marker on the running bed. And that acts like every time that clicks over, we worked on a contingency plan. We had people out the back running distances and stuff, and that worked as the marker to do the same too. Other than that, any other shit that explodes, there's just spares on standby because sometimes you're going to have to switch rings out between heats because somebody rips the crap out of their hands and has blood all over the rings, and you can't have that. We had a dude explode a rower. That was cool. He literally just got on it
and I've never seen it in my life. Like, he shredded the flywheel. It just fucking exploded.
Oh,
like,
wow.
no shit. At the regionals,
Yeah.
he's always on it, and he was like, woo, woo, and he just went, boom, just exploded. He fell off his seat, and we're all like, what the fuck? And so we were just like, keep rowing. So he's on it, the thing's like, because the flywheel's just, it broke into chunks, and it was all just rattling around inside the cage. The equipment team run one over, jumped him on that, and then I like literally just looked at the dude next to him, and then dude again, and then just did a quick average in my head, and you're like, you've got to do this, excuse me, to complete it.
Yeah, cool.
And so we figured out, but that's the first time I've ever seen a Concept 2 shit the bed. Their quality is normally
Yeah. For us in the gym, it's normally
the saw bags had
the cable for the rower, but the saw bag pedals and the handles.
Saw bags are
James's nightmare.
Yeah, but if I'm honest, it's because we're idiots with our own gear, man. We abuse it, you know, like even a salt bike says, don't go from 0 to all singing, all dancing, because you'll just wreck the fuck out your bike. And like, well, that's what we always do. It's like, you need to be performing basic maintenance tests every week. No one ever does those. You know, like, and it's like, and then we're all surprised when our shit breaks, and you're like, well,
fuck. I read the manual.
Probably should have been doing
exactly.
this
In the manual, it says you probably should be doing this each week, and like doing this and checking this and tightening that bolt, and you're like, oh, damn it.
Yeah, we went through a stage where it was like you'd fix one, and then 2 would break, and then you managed to fix one of them, and then another 2 would break. Like,
yeah, man. I think they're much better now, but that's why, honestly, that's why I got rid of my one and got an Echo bike, because that thing's bomb-proof, man.
Yeah.
It just, it's misery. Like, Echo bikes are just horrible, because they're just different than the assault bike, but they're, my one's bomb-proof. I've not had any issues with that thing, other than me wanting to break it.
Accidentally.
Yeah,
I think Bosman on his live Instagram thing yesterday called them the Cadillac of the bike game. So like real smooth, but they're like
it's almost like somebody stroke. Yeah, it's like somebody stroking the back of your head, telling you it's all right, or they're reaming you. You know, that's pretty much what it's like on the Echo bike. To be fair, smooth.
Favorite whiskey?
Oh damn! Oh, that depends what mood I'm in, mate. I'm not going to lie to you. I used to be like, when I was first getting into it, it was the more gnarly the better, you know. So it's like trying to get like the real peaty ones and finding like Bonavin or what we got now, like the Octomore and all that kind of stuff, like the real naughty peaty ones, like blow your nutsack off. But since moving up here, because we're in Speyside, really had good affinity for going out and finding ones like a Balveni's awesome, even Glenfiddich. I didn't realize that was the last family-owned distillery. I thought that when I went around the distillery, it's only like 40 minutes away, like everything else is pretty much owned by conglomerates now, and so Glenfiddich is the last sort of big name that's still owned by like the Grant family and stuff, and still on the original. Anyway, it's cool, you can go do the thing. But I think big fan of the Balvenie as well. The Doublewood's nice, and Talisker is always a go-to. Just if I want something that's a little bit harder and just a good sort of cold weather night around the campfire kind of deal. Like, it's got to be something that just burns your throat a little, you know? So depends what mood, you know? Some days I like heavy metal. Some days I want to listen to a bit of country, you know what I mean? It just depends. Maybe a little bit of Stormzy after that. You just never quite know. Never know what you're feeling that day.
It's good. In your experience, which movement standard causes the most trouble?
Ooh, you know, I think we've already talked about it, if I'm honest. Something that we do 50,000 of every year is probably is the wall ball, man.
Yeah.
Like, that is nine times out of 10 where people lose shit all the time about it. And you're like, just squat better. Or even, like squat better. You'll be right. I mean, apparently this is your living, you know, and your sport. Perhaps you better focus on like a little less EMOMs and percentage stuff and learn how to squat better. But what do I know?
This one was me geeking out earlier on, watching a video of you in Savon from 2011 or something like that.
In Milan? Was that in Milan when we were in? Yeah, fuck.
Did you beat your or break that 7-minute Helen time that you were talking about?
You know what? I never did. I think I'll be getting close. Everything else comes flying down a little bit, but that's just, you know, when you're at the point where you can go unbroken on Helen, right? Which you can relatively soon, I think. Like, I think Helen on the list of like CrossFit RXs is one of the first to get ticked off when you're rolling and improving. So when you get to the point where that's unbroken work, right? Then it just becomes about how fucking miserable can you make your 400-meter run. That's it, because the rest of it is no drama. Like when you can do the work in the gym, you know, you bang your swings and you breathe and keep calm, you tear through your pull-ups, whatever style is you fancy, you get that done. Then it just becomes about how fast do you want to do this? And that's all it is, you know, and that's where it becomes misery, like abject misery. That's why I love that workout. It makes you hurt. Even if you do it slowly, it still hurts, you know, like even if and I think, you know, I'm a believer of like, same with Sherwood, if you're not losing too much time off of something, then you're really fit, you know, like, don't worry. Like if you've got a Fran time that's still like 4 or just under 4, that's still fucking brilliant. Like, don't worry. That's still good. Like as long as the next time you do Fran, it doesn't come in like 8 minutes. You're rocking.
Good,
you know, like it doesn't matter. You are still really fit. Like hold yourself up on a pedestal of even your buddies and just be like, doing all right, son. You're doing all right. You know what I mean? So it's like, luckily enough, I'm still in that bracket, the 7 to 8 minute window. That's where I sit most times, you know? So savage. And I'm still in bits.
Consistent.
Still in bits. Every time.
Cool. So the next two almost kind of fall into each other. So one of them was the funniest thing that's ever happened on a level 1 or a level 2, and then the other one was the best / worst seminar experiences. So pretty much the same situation.
Yeah, okay. Just extremes, I guess. I'm going to think on that for a second. I had tons of funny ones. So I think probably one of the best ones was like, surreal, all actually happened on my first working seminar. Like the first one upon getting the shirt and doing the job. We were scheduled to go onto Ramstein Air Force Base in Germany, which is a big US owned base. But we're due to go on there. And the night before, the higher ups and the base just decided that no, they're not going to let that amount of civilians on base. So they were like, nope, course isn't going on. So we're like, fuck, we've got nowhere to do the seminar. Luckily enough, there was a dude who was on the course who owned like a Globo gym in the town of Ramstein. And so he just said, well, we've got a hall in there, so we'll make that work. So that was already like weirdness going on. So, you know, like we went there, we kind of like, everything's up in the air. We're trying to figure it out. Like everybody's mobilizing, trying to get gear for the seminar. Like people were driving across the country, shipping med balls in, like it was nuts. But the reason why it was funny was because there was a dude on the course who was just that guy. And now I never had experience of this, right? So I just assumed the guy was being a dick, but he was just off with everybody. And he was especially off with like any female member of staff as well, you know, like just a twat. And so it came to a head on day 2 where we had a workout, and we all had a line each. So imagine like a big sea of people all doing like a fight gone bad style thing, but with different movements. So it's like a line of people doing something, a line, and we were all on a line. So anyway, one of the movements was push-ups. He's cranking them out. He's doing them shit. He's a military guy, so he was just like doing the whole like fist distance away. Do what you know, I guess. And so one of the other trainers came over and she was like, hey, you need to be lower. You need to be lower. He pops up out and he goes, you need to get the fuck out of my face. He was like, whoa. Everything went off. Sherwood sees it, who's the flow, right? And he comes over and it was fun. Like he was just like, do you want to go outside? Do you want to step outside? Like offering the guy out, and the guy was like, fuck yeah, let's do it. Trying to show all off. And Pat was like, right. And Pat would have ripped his head off. Like he's a ex-SEAL monster badass. Like he would have ripped his head off. And it was brilliant because one of the other members of staff was just like, Pat, no, that's not smart. Like she's doing the mum roll. And me and another guy called Mads, you know, the dude who does the commentating a lot of the time at the regionals. We were working and we were like, do it, Pat, fucking rip his head off. And Courtney's like, you two, shut up, go away. And we're like, no, Pat, come back. And it's just a surreal experience, but it was funny because it led me into Pat's that guy. Like if somebody's doing wrong, he's the one that stands up. He's the one that goes. So it was pretty cool. But it was very funny to watch as well. I'm like, this is my first seminar on staff, and I'm like, working for CrossFit's fucking cool. Look at this. We get fights and punch ups and all kinds of madness. So yeah, that was probably the funniest one. Worst one is always when people get hurt, man. Like it's always just freak accidents. But I always fucking hate it when people's experience of a level 1 is like just some random out of the nowhere weird injury. So we had this guy on the course once. His name was Ahmed from Egypt, and he's such a dude about it as well. Like he always sticks in my mind because it was just unreal, right? So he's doing Fran at the end of day 1 when we were allowed to, because they had the dollar matting, right? That big chunky matting that you see at like the regionals. So because we had to do that because there was a load of people. Went through a spate in the US of folks coming off of pull-up rigs. I've never come off of a pull-up rig because when my grip goes, I come the fuck off the rig. So it's like he was in doing pull-ups. It was Fran, and I was right there with him. This was the worst bit, right? So it was his 9th pull-up of the last round.
Oh no!
He goes for it, and I'm like, "You can do it, bro!" He kicks up, ping, ping, hands come off, and he hits the ground, and I'm like, damn it. You okay, bro? And he rolls over, and his forearm is like an S-bend. Like he snapped his forearm. I was like that. Fuck! So we have an emergency action plan and procedures that obviously, so put that into play, we square it all away. And I'm like, damn, we got in the rental car. We took him to the hospital. We stayed with him, do all that good stuff. He was like, I see you in the morning. And we're like, bro, no, it's all right if you're not there. Like, you'll be good. And he's like, I'll see you in the morning. It's like, I can still sit the test, yes? And I'm like, fucking hell, man. Like, this guy's next level. And I'm like, yeah, which arm did you break? And he's like, right arm. And I'm like, you left-handed? He's like, yep. So, all right, cool. Well, I guess we're rocking then. Yeah, sure. So he was the first dude there the next day. Like, this guy was rock star.
Oh, legend.
And he was like, I'm in. And the workout came up, and it was med ball cleans and push-ups. Kind of like seven of each in 7 minutes, I think. And he was like, I'm in. I'm like, you can take it a little easy. And he's like, nah. So he just grabs a dumbbell and does full cleans with a good arm, right? And dumbbell. And when it comes to push-ups, he just full on fucking rockies them, just down and one arm push-ups to the
class.
deck. Like, and just rocks them. Absolute legend. And he didn't want for anything. And the best thing was everybody else's crappy excuses, like, I've got a cold and I don't want to train today. Like, like you get a lot of those on the seminar too, because they sometimes seem to think that if they turn up on a CrossFit course, they don't have to do any CrossFit. Anyway. So they're like, I got a cold and I don't feel well. And all of a sudden, all you have to do is just go, point over at this dude just cranking in the corner, and they're like, boop, Roger, yep, no worries. Yeah, excuses aren't valid today, Roger. On I go. So I guess those would be the two that spring to mind.
Cool. That's a good answer.
Yeah, I don't think of any more.
Ahmed Al Sharaf, I don't know if I said this wrong. He asked, why is Karl so cool?
Oh yeah, my brother from Bahrain.
Yeah, he's asking why is Karl so cool?
No idea. Ask my wife. She tells me what to do. Trying not to let my kids down. Yeah, go on. Hey, quarantine hair. Must be there, man. We're all rolling the quarantine at the minute, right?
It's mad.
I want to come out like Robin Williams out of Jumanji, mate. Ridiculous.
Perfect. So Mike Tatras.
It's pretty hard to not enjoy yourself, eh?
Yeah.
Now go ahead, man. You got it.
No, sweet. Did you see CrossFit becoming as big as it has in the UK when you took your first seminar?
No, I always hoped. I'm fully committed to the message. The sport didn't exist back then. So for me, this was all about spreading that methodology, this way of life. Like Coach Glassman summed it up beautifully the other day when he said it was like high kinetic, low carbohydrate life. And I'm like, that's pretty much it. Yeah, especially in comparison to many others. Like we push our limits a lot harder physically and mentally. And we also don't eat as much shit as the vast majority of society, unfortunately. So that message that has always been core to CrossFit, not necessarily to the sport, weirdly enough, like what you need to do for sport is very different than what you need to do for life.
Yep.
But I think the core message that CrossFit training and CrossFit Inc. has always pushed is like, hey, you don't need all the fancy gear. You just got to move yourself, and you've got to stop eating so much bullshit. And we've got the answer. We can help you with that, you know. And I thought that message was crystal clear. Anytime that you get any exposure to CrossFit training, that was like, yeah, that's the one, man. Like, if I could, I say this more often than not on seminars as well, where I'm like, look, if I could get even my nearest and dearest members of my family to do, you know, constantly very functional movement at high intensity, eat meat, vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, no sugar, you know the drill, right? If I could get them just to do that piece, I could leave this planet a happy man.
Happy
like,
man, yeah.
Yeah, so it's just those basics. Like, so what if somebody doesn't want to do, you know, this flavor of CrossFit or that flavor of CrossFit? I don't really give a fuck, man. Like, as long as you're doing a deadlift occasionally and you're lowering and raising your center of mass, and you keep yourself out the old folks home, and you stop exposing yourself to getting all of those horrible metabolic diseases, which we seem to be dying off so much.
Yep.
Then that was always the plan. That was always the plan. And I like to think that the weirdness that's happening now might actually switch more people on to coming in our doors, and we can help them.
Yeah, 100%. Cool. Yes. So the next two.
Here we go. I was really saving the gold ones. I'm like, these are way too polite. What's going on?
Can you remember anything after the drinking game started at Lawson's wedding?
Oh, no, mate, no. That was hilarious. That's Catrice again. I guarantee you that's Catrice asking that one. That was savage. We'll put it this way. I'm pretty bad. Like, those Welsh boys come up with some elaborate drinking games, right? You need to have a degree in shit to be able to figure it out.
Commander one.
So it got to the point where, you know, the night goes on. We're all a bit steaming, Willy beaming. And I'm just kind of, had my pint, and everyone's doing this weird thing. You know, there's a whole rigmarole, and bums are all over the game, and chants this, that, and the other, and fucking, I don't know. And then I just basically took it as my cue, right? I got my pint, and I'm like, right. As soon as everybody stopped and looked at me, I'm like, fuck, what?
Oh, no.
I just assumed that I'd messed up, right? So you just chin your pint and be like, oh, I don't fucking know. I don't know what's going on there. So yeah, that was pretty much how every single one of the drinking games went, and we all got absolutely schooled by a very small American lady who drunk us all under the table.
Yeah. Class.
I like it.
Yeah. So the short answer is no. I don't remember anything.
Is Rob Lawson a real human, or is he an alien?
Yeah, I think he's a cyborg. He's kind of like he's part human, but he's also, you know, I've seen parts of him that would actually be part horse. To be fair, it's an intimidating thing. Other than that, I mean, he's not perfect because he's bald too. So he can't. No one's perfect, mate. But yeah, he's a legend. Like, honestly, Robbie Lawson's one of those characters that you'd run through a wall for. He's just a born leader, you know? Like, you don't have to spend about 5 minutes around him to be like, shit, this guy really cares about people, cares about me, cares about everyone else. And I mean, that was one. Big draws are coming up there as well, you know? Mm-hmm. Walking across CrossFit Aberdeen, which is a pokey tin shed right on the edge of the beach, you know? And you walk in there and you're like, oh, fuck, no, this is special, this place, you know? Like, I've had the distinct pleasure of going into many gyms around the world, and they pale in significance to what he's built there at Aberdeen, you know, like coaching standards, community wise, everything. Like, damn, and that's all led by him. But, you know, he's not perfect. He's still ugly.
He's not perfect.
Yeah, he's still ugly as shit.
So that's all I had. James,
I've got the couple that fell through the cracks. Snatch isn't functional or necessary. Discuss.
Ooh, nice. Yeah, man.
Right.
Well, so I guess my opinion on that is like, yeah, it's not that. I mean, if you're thinking about, should it belong in a program? Yeah, I reckon so, because it's challenging. But is it necessary to be good at life? No, not really.
No, probably not.
You know, like I can't think of that, like a full legitimate squat snatch as a movement. I mean, I've been on this planet for like 40 years now, and I don't really remember ever having to do something that even got close to a snatch in my life. Like,
that's fair. Dave will love that. Dave will love that.
But, you know, I'll be honest as well. But if you're looking for one movement that challenges those 10 general physical skills that we want from a training program in Awana, it's that thing right there.
It's that
you know, like
there.
Yeah, and so, you know, people are always like, oh, but what about cardiovascular endurance and stamina? Well, then you do fucking 30 for time, brother.
That's true. There you go.
So yeah, I think you don't need it, but it's cool to have.
It's cool to have, yeah. And then I think probably actually quite a good one to finish up on. The best advice you can give someone starting their CrossFit coaching career.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Damn. You know what? Like, honestly, everything is learnable. So being a better teacher, you can learn that, you can refine that, you can get better. Seeing and correcting likewise. I truly believe that if you give a shit about people, that transcends everything else. You know, like people feel that keenly. They also know when someone's a turd too. So if you're in it for, I don't know, the cash, or you really don't give a shit or whatever that may be, then it comes across, man. People feel that. Yeah. So if you bring just care and empathy, checking in with folk, making sure they're cool, banter, get to know people beyond just the 60 minutes of your exposure, all that kind of stuff, then it just shows that you give a shit. And everything else, you know, like you can get better at your own demonstrations. You can live a better life and lead through example, you know, like you can run better groups by managing your timelines better but you see all of those things, they're teachable. Yeah. That's just a skill set that requires practice and refining, but can't polish a turd, you know?
Yeah, that's true. No, I like that one. That's probably the best answer, actually, to be fair. It's a solid one. Boom. Give a shit.
Correct, man.
Give a shit.
Awesome, man. Well, that's all we have, unless you have anything you want to tell our 51 listeners on the last one.
Yeah, I was going to say, what? Who knows, man? 52 now, because I'll get my mum to listen. Shut up.
Oh, yes.
She'll be tuning in every week now because you both invest.
There we go. Oh, here we go.
See, a bit of man flesh. You want to watch out, man.
I don't think I've had a t-shirt on since the start of lockdown, to be fair.
Oh, yeah, it's true. It's been nice, man. This week getting better too. It's getting warmer now.
How's the cold water? The cold water pool?
Quality, man. I dig that, man. I like it. It's tough because I don't want to do it. It's too easy to chin it off and no one would know. It's just I'm a big believer in like just kind of trying to find those daily disciplines. You know what I mean? Like just find stuff to do every day that's a bit tough. Makes you work a bit hard. Makes you stronger, doesn't it? You know. So that was one of them. Plus, you know, I like the idea of it is good just trying to control yourself when you panic. Talk to the kids about that all the time as well. Like we run up the hill every week, and it's steep. Like it's horrible. It's only a mile, but it's really steep. It's honking. And I mean, you know, the kids when they first ran it, they got that whole, you know what it's like. Your heart rate goes from 0 to like 5,000, and you get that panic because you can't breathe and all that kind of stuff. And it was good for them to just experience that and learn how to be like, you're all right. You ain't gonna die. You know, just calm. And that's the same with the cold water stuff too. You know, you get in there and the first thing you do is panic because it's crazy. Like,
fucking
lungs fall out your butt and stuff. And you're like,
class.
And then learning to control that. I don't know if I believe any of the science that sits behind it, but I just like the fact that it's challenging and you have to control it. You know, kind of makes you a little tougher, a bit like CrossFit. You know.
Yeah.
No, that's cool. That's cool.
Sweet. But yeah, thanks for coming on. Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, no, appreciate
my
it, man.
pleasure.
Appreciate it.
That was awesome.
You're more than welcome.
Boom. But yeah, unless you got anything to say, no, perfect, dude. Thank you. Awesome.
Thank you very much, man.
No worries, gentlemen. Thank you very much for having me.